During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Mark French. How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm well. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. For the first question that I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. By title, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, but my primary responsibilities are working closely with my sales team to sell advertising across our entire media platform, both print and digital. This is the Republican, but our website is masslive.com. And we have weekly community newspapers called Reminder Publishing. We have a Spanish language newspaper called El Pueblo Latino. And we have a digital out-of-home signage network called the POP Network, which stands for Point of Purchase. And we produce countless magazines and other products. So my responsibility is to work with that team, fill those with advertising to cover the costs associated with it, set our direction based on an ever-changing media environment that we're all navigating on a continuous basis, and obviously tender those revenue projections and be responsible for a budget associated with covering the costs associated with producing all this news and content, which is quite expensive. So, and have a lot of fun while I'm doing it.
Were you always envisioning yourself being inside of this industry?
Good question. I'm a Penn State grad. I remember when I was first trying to declare my major at that time, and I actually was looking at interior decorating and so forth. And then I realized that from a standpoint of a career, that advertising was called advertising, and then now it's communications, but it was advertising to pick that major. And I realized that I've always been creative, and I can use that skill, and I could do so in a manner to help businesses grow and in turn make money doing it in a great career. And so I ended up with my degree in advertising from Penn State in 1986, and I took a minor in business, and I have been doing this ever since. In fact, literally 2 days after I graduated from Penn State, I interviewed with the Morning Call newspaper in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And after the interview, before I could even take my suit off from the interview, they had already called and offered me a job. And so now, more than 40 years later, I've been in the business, and I love it. I love advertising. I love this creativity part of it. And genuinely, you learn so many cool things about the businesses you work with. It's just an adventure, and no day is ever like another. So did I envision exactly that? I don't think anyone could have foreseen all of it, but it's been a great career ever since I left school.
What has been your biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
That's a huge question. Be true to yourself, I think. I think sometimes in leadership, people think while you have to be emotionally aware, it's okay to be a human being and have moments where you even express to your staff, I'm dealing with certain circumstances, that to humanize yourself and not always isolate and say, because I'm in a leadership position, I can't show emotion, and I can't. You can. In fact, you should. I think my team knows me as a result of that and recognize that I'm a human being just like them.
So for you in this industry, what are some ways that you're able to build relationships with clients so that they're willing to advertise in your magazine, newspaper, online with you?
Back when I first started, the ability to what I call discovery was much more difficult. Now you have the internet and so forth that you can research and check out local businesses that you may recognize as an opportunity for someone to advertise with us. And you don't have to walk into a business completely cold, as they say, at a cold. You can walk in having done a little homework and speak to the person in charge of marketing communications and immediately form some sort of a bond, just knowing I know a little bit about your business, what I've seen, and that conversation is a discovery. It's not to come in and go, I have all these products that I think you should buy. You really don't know that until you get to know the business. And what are their pain points? What are their challenges? What are their opportunities? And so the nature of our business is all consultative, meaning that it's a conversation. And during the course of that conversation, you really do get to know people, and not just about their business, but their families, their dog, all of those things. So by default, what we do is about getting to know and having a good relationship.
Wow. So for you, when you first got in this industry, you talked about how you already envisioned it a little bit in college. What was like your biggest wake up call for you? Like, oh wow, this is something I really enjoy doing.
I pretty much out of the gate. So when I started at the morning call, I was an advertising assistant and I assisted other outside salespeople that were selling our products and services, mostly print at that time because there was no internet. But we did have other things outside of the printed newspaper. And I'm a gregarious guy anyway, so handling the customers, the salespeople were often sending their customers to me because I had great relationships with them. And I genuinely cared about their business. And I had a full year of graphic design at Penn State too. So I was aware of strong design skills associated with ads. So ads that even had been running for quite some time the same way, I was not hesitant to say, why don't we try this or change this header or use this graphic or let's clean up this copy a little bit. Instead of paragraphs, let's use bullet points. Immediately, what I wanted was my own territory. I wanted my own customers. I wanted to own it. So within 6 months, I was hired for outside sales, given a territory, a very difficult out of market territory, which didn't matter to me. It was mine. And now they're my customers. And I did exactly that and worked with them. I wasn't a professional salesperson, but I realized that I cared about them. I had good ideas. And in the end, I wasn't forcing anyone to buy anything. I was just interested in their business, listened to what they had to say. And as a direct result, I sold tons of advertising as a result, and much more than sometimes people that were there many years, my senior. And I had a great time doing it.
So you just talked about how you wanted to improve the way the ads were looking. So what are the differences that you notice between effective ads versus ads that don't really work?
Oh, that's a great question. Advertising is not inexpensive. So taking a print ad, some businesses make the mistake of saying, I want to get as much in there as possible because I'm paying for it. And that means a timeout for a moment, especially with the fact that most have websites. But strong ads in print, let's just look at print for a moment. I educate my staff, I educate advertisers saying that you need a strong headline. You need a call to action. You can do that a couple of different ways. That headline should probably be 7, 8 words or less. You can use a graphic or a photo, something to draw me and make me stand out from the other ads and other content on that page. Once you draw me in, you need to clarify what you're asking, what product you're selling, and probably provide a few specific benefits, not features, benefits. Features, for example, if I have a car that gets 50 miles to the gallon, that's the feature. The benefit is I save money on gas. That's what the customer really wants, is the benefit, some benefit statements, and then how do I execute? What do I need to do to enjoy that? Scan a QR code so that I can go right to the website, or go right to the website, have the phone number, the address, how I can execute from that point on. And that makes for a really solid basis to it. The great thing about advertising is there's lots of rules, but then there's no rules at all. You can break those rules, but basic fundamentals, those are the things that we look at.
Why are newspapers like yours still relevant in today's age?
Great question. I tell you what, they're relevant because you look at this newsroom here. We're sitting in the newsroom. We have more employees, more people, more photographers, more freelancers out capturing the daily local news and information in the community that you won't find anywhere. You're not going to find it on Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. You're not going to find it in Snapchat. You're not going to find it on television either, frankly. You will. TV does a great job with many things, but the level of comprehension and detail we go into our stories, especially our investigative reporting, it's critical for our democracy. It's critical that we hold politicians accountable. It's critical that we provide a forum for people to provide their opinions. We are truly very relevant. Now, in standard print, make no mistake about it, paid print subscriptions for newspapers aren't what they used to be. But we have masslive.com, which is our website, and you can read our entire newspaper as if it was on your kitchen table as an e-edition digitally. And if you don't want it in the format of the newspaper, you can read Mass Live. Our job, and the difficulty of our job, is we need to deliver the news in a format that the reader wants it. And if they want a combination of print and digital, we need to do that. If they want it purely digital, we need to do that. If it's just print, we're going to continue to do that. So that's a day-to-day challenge. I've said it for the last 15 years. It's like having your foot in a canoe on one side and a canoe on this side, and they're going in opposite directions. And it's harder to straddle, but it's a fun challenge, and I think we meet it really well here.
Yeah, that was perfect for the next question I wanted to ask you. I was gonna say,
We didn't rehearse this, by the way, right? We didn't listen.
but so I wanted to know, how have you been able to kind of transition or be able to keep up in a day and age where it's digital media first, where people are looking towards strictly digital media?
Yeah, that's masslive.com. That's and if you take Mass Live currently through ComScore is the largest news and information site, not in just the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but in New England. So we're doing a good job of it. People are coming, they're reading, they look at it. On a given month, we can have upwards of 7 million unique visitors, and the content views number into the 14 to 17 million. And that's the way we answer that. We never touch a newspaper again, including the Republican. Sad, because I bleed black ink. Haven't been in the newspaper business so long. The Mass Live is where they can get it.
What has been like the biggest shift that you've noticed inside of your industry since you've been here?
What we just talked about. From day one, it's been the only constant in this business is change. And that's true for many businesses. So I'm not complaining about that fact. It's a healthy thing, but especially when you talk the advent of the internet, it's so new, really. If you take a look at the, 1995, the website launched in 98. That's yesterday, frankly, in the big picture of things. And so it's just changed very rapidly. So from a content standpoint, having to pivot and understand that we need to deliver what readers want. And if that's what they want in digital, it's going to be there. The same with advertising. There are advertisers out there that regularly will continue to use print or a combination of print and digital. Many are pure play digital. So if they want owned and operated digital impressions on Mass Live, I'm going to help them do that. If they want owned and they want to go beyond that, extended reach, and use other premium sites, we're audience agnostic. We'll help them meet them across an extended reach network with premium sites that don't even include Mass Live. So we're there. In the end, any advertiser wants an audience, and they want the right audience that geographically, behaviorally. My job is to figure out how they reach that audience using the products we have, and then building a campaign around that. It's really that simple, but it's very complicated at the same time.
So what advice when it comes to advertising would you give to a starter or small business? Would it make more sense for them to be digital or both? What would make?
It depends based on that discovery call. Who are you trying to reach? What's the messaging that you're trying to convey? Do you have a good website? So for example, if I run a digital display campaign, impressions come up and I have a leaderboard that has your call to action and a QR code, or you just click the ad and goes through. Where am I going on your website to take that reader to the next level? And if it's not a good website or not a good landing page, I'm not doing you any favor. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. So with a smaller business, the challenge is many times when they get started, they really haven't allocated a lot of money to marketing, and that's a mistake because they're paying employees and utilities and rent, and I get it. So you're trying to find a way to do a couple of things. Define the audience and get audience reach. Reach is how many potential readers that you have, whether print and digital, that are out there. And the other critical component of a solid campaign generally is consistency, frequency. Reach and frequency creates impressions. An impression is a single view of that particular ad, whether print and digital. And you need to repeat those. Now, the other component that comes in, it's really important, is what's the product cycle for that? So let me ask you something. When's the last time you bought a mattress?
Never. I never bought a mattress.
Never bought a mattress. Most times you ask, it's probably anywhere from 3 to 10 years. And so it's a long product cycle. You don't buy it often. It's like a car, a house, a security system. That's not like buying a Coke or a sandwich or going to a restaurant, which you could buy daily. That's a short product cycle. Those others are long product cycles. Even more importantly for those is consistency. If I said to you, name a mattress company, not a company that sells them, but a brand, can you think of one?
No, I have to look on my mattress to find the brand.
That's okay. Most that have bought a couple would say Sealy, Serta, Simmons, maybe King Coil, Stearns and Foster. And yet they only bought a mattress maybe 7, 8 years ago. How did you remember that? Consistency, consistent branding, consistent advertising. If you're a locksmith, how many times you hire a locksmith? Maybe half a dozen times in your life. That type of advertiser, I say you need consistency, reaching a right and broad audience, and you constantly need to be building your brand. So when have the opportunity, or you're about to buy advertising, or you're using advertising, I share with them the acronym TOMA. And it's common, it's top of mind awareness. if you're going to create top of mind awareness, you need to have your brand there in front. Simple messaging, simple logo, simple headline, consistently, every week running, so that when I need a locksmith, I go, hey, I remember Mark's Locksmith. I remember that. I knew it was in the paper here somewhere. And even if they look it up now and use the digital yellow pages, I'm looking for Mark's Locksmith because I'm familiar with Mark. I'm familiar with his company. Familiarity leads to credibility, leads to someone having prone to actually like that brand. That is a true, psychologically, that's how it works, versus the locksmith that never advertised. So it's a combination of all those things.
So now I'm thinking about it, I'm noticing ads. I always see people run the same ad over and over again. It's like, when is it good to switch the way that you're advertising, like change the messaging?
It's a good question. Using the locksmith example, maybe not often at all, only because that repetition, you may even just glance past it because you don't need that product. But when you do, you want to have that familiarity. Now, even in a campaign like that, the better thing to do, quite frankly, is probably have a rotation of 2 or 3 ads that have a similar look, a similar call to action, a similar brand, but change it up a little bit and even have some fun with it. Locked out, question mark, exclamation point, something to that. Need a way in, whatever headline you use, that's a bad headline. But changing it up is important at some point. Like, for example, I wouldn't say run it with the same thing for years at a time. You could, but I would change it up so it becomes of more interest to the reader.
Yes. That's good advice right there. Appreciate that.
Sure.
So for you, what are some important characteristics that you have when it comes to being a great leader?
I care about people genuinely, beyond what they do for work. I'm supportive, compassionate, empathetic. I think I'm a pretty good communicator. When I ask someone to do something, especially if it's complicated, I explain why. Now, there's nothing worse than you ask an employee to do something that the worst thing you can do is leave them wondering, why am I doing this? And explaining to them, especially if it's complicated, difficult, challenging, that as a result of their effort, we will accomplish this. And that's important to the company and probably important to them too, but being clear on that. I think I set clear expectations, have a vision for the department. Some of these things are cliche. I think if you've ever heard of servant leadership, and in the process of many of these interviews, I bet that's come up before. I consider myself a servant leader. I suppress my needs or the specific needs based on actually investing in the success of my employees, both personally and professionally, and the company. Those are all important things. I think we're all human beings, but I think when you're in a leadership position, even more so, how you behave, setting the example. And I mean everything from you willing to dig in and work side by side with your team, but also when you walk in the door, how you present yourself. You heard about body language. So when you're in a leadership role, you could be having a really tough day. Maybe, let's say you're on the way to work, you get a flat tire, or you have someone cut you off on the roadway and makes you upset. Maybe there's something going on at home with your family that's difficult. Those things are difficult to suppress when you come into the work area, but you can't be walking around with that smirk on your face or rounded shoulders. You need to really amplify what you are and the positivity, and have people have confidence. That's consistent day in, day out.
Did you ever see yourself being as high of a leadership role when you first started in this industry, or was it more like over time you realized, oh, I'm going to end up having a leadership role?
I think I started with a leadership role immediately. Leadership doesn't come with a title. You can have leaders at every level in a company. Sometimes it's not seen that way. In fact, there are some people with a title that frankly aren't good leaders. That's unfortunate. It's probably not often because you have to earn that. But when I started out in outside sales at the morning call newspaper in Allentown, I quickly realized that I could outperform my peers that had been doing it for 30 and 40 years. I realized that I didn't have to wait, and I was hungry, and I had bills to pay, and I bought my first house at 26 or 24, actually 24. I bought my first home. I had a mortgage, I had taxes, I had groceries. I was a single guy, which was so liberating to me, by the way. It was awesome, and I was making a really good income. My second year with the morning call newspaper, I was salesperson of the year. We had 35 outside salespeople. Here's this young kid coming in, but I had the work ethic, the commitment. My customers, not only did they want to buy from me, but they enjoyed me coming in because I didn't just come in to sell them an ad. I came in to find out how they were, how's their family, how's the dog. I know the dog had to go to the vet. I knew who they were. And then as I evolved, because I was hungry, I wanted the next step. I didn't want just an outside display retail territory. I wanted majors and nationals. And I actually left the morning call really at the peak of my game because that position was already filled by someone that I knew was probably going to be there a long time. So I took that job at another newspaper in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and quickly was handling majors and national accounts, the Best Buys, the Sears, the JCPenney's at that time, big accounts, big grocery stores. And then it just evolved from there. So I think a combination of me being hungry, motivated, hard worker, and then I just had a way with people that I think made me the leader I am today.
So I don't want to just skip past the fact that you just said you were the #1 salesperson out of what you said, 35?
Yeah.
So how are you so much different than everybody else?
It's not that I'm smarter than everybody or have more overall skills. I think it's just commitment and hard work. It's hard work. Now, there were days, my sales territory for the morning call started 20 miles from the main office. It started there. I would drive 100 plus miles a day sometimes. I had an unair conditioned car, a Buick Skyhawk stick shift 4-speed, not even a 5-speed, no AC, 90-degree heat. And guess what? This is how I dressed. I dressed in a suit and tie, was sweating for sure. I had an ad manager there that said, don't ever let me catch you in an account without a coat on, meaning my suit. And I had a lot of farm stands. I'd be out in my good shoes, traipsing across dirt roads, mud, in my suit and tie. They'd look at me like I'm crazy, but you know what? I was well presented. I was professional. And all of those things, I think, yes, you have to be smart. Yes, you have to be creative. Yes, you have to be diligent. But behind all of that is just the willingness to do the hard work. So after those days, after 100 miles, I'd have to drive back to Allentown so I could process my ads. I'd walk in the door, beat red, sweating after another hard day. But that's what I did. And I did it day after day, year after year with dependability and grew through the ranks.
So for somebody that is starting out in sales, what is the biggest advice that you can give to them?
Oh, yeah. Sales of anything. Wow. First and foremost, you better believe in that product. Don't waste your time. If you go to sell something that you don't believe in, you don't find interesting, don't even start. So that's the first thing. Sell something you believe, you love, want to be part of. And for me, advertising, that's all me. That's great. Love that. And really believe in our products. So that's #1. Secondly is that you need to be, you're going to work really hard to be successful, particularly out of the gate, most likely. Most sales, you got to learn the product. And if you have a territory, you need to understand the features and benefits of that product. You need to understand the geography. You need to understand and empathize with your customers and know who your target customers are. You go to sell product, and if you're going to the wrong targets, the wrong prospect, you're wasting an awful lot of time. And then you have to really learn to present yourself in a professional manner that puts the customer's needs first. Don't be one of those salespeople that walks in and starts, I introduce myself, I shake your hand and go, I'm here to sell you this. And aren't these great products? That's like someone walking into a car dealer, walks into the main showroom, salesperson runs out, grabs him by the hand and says, I have this great 3/4 ton hybrid truck that you're going to love. Meanwhile, I'm looking for a four-door coupe model. You're wasting your time. I can't begin to tell you what you might need until I understand what your needs are. So in sales, you better ask an awful lot of questions before you even begin to talk about what you might have. You don't know if you can fulfill a need until you get to that point. And that's that discovery conversation. It's like us having a chat right now. It's a conversation. And then assessing if that customer should be a customer because you have something you can do to help them or not. Recognize you can help them. Don't waste their time.
What has been your biggest obstacle that you had to overcome in your career?
Definitely the constant transition. I don't want to call it an obstacle, but a challenge. It's With the advent of the internet, I was probably one of the few sales managers. And at this point, I was at a newspaper called the Express Times in Easton, Pennsylvania. And we were ahead of it. And I was trying to train and get my staff to understand selling digital. And that was like the basics. And it's really keeping up and evolving with that. I'm not going to call it an obstacle. I'm going to call it a challenge. It's just constant. There are days you're like, I just wish things could stay consistent for a while and maybe I could just breathe, because you do have days like that. You're like, this is crazy. But that's also what has stimulated and made it exciting, because that's kept me not only interested in the business, but it's helped me grow professionally, intellectually. It's challenging. And if you're not using your brain, it's not a good thing.
So you just talked about the biggest challenge was getting used to selling digitally. So what's like the differences and similarities between selling digitally and selling in a newspaper or a magazine, just any hardcover?
Common to all media is audience, whether it's a digital audience, print audience. A customer honestly, they really don't care, as long as you can reach that audience with the right message to get them to take action, hopefully to buy a service or buy a product. And that's true of all media. So they are very similar. If you look at the website, look at masslive.com, for example, you have segments, sections of the website. You've got your navigation board and where you go, local news, sports, whatever. Much like reading the newspaper, right? Ads pop up digitally as a direct result. They just aren't static like them appearing in the newspaper. So they really are very common in many ways, despite the fact that they are very unique as far as the format. But audience is audience. If I can reach the right audience and I can print 8.5 by 11 flyers and I can walk around and stick them under windshield wipers in a parking lot and maybe get some business, isn't that advertising? Yeah. Old school and simple, not practical probably, but still could work.
What are like some good ways to find the right audience for your product or service?
Really, that has to be with the conversation with who's running the business. It's one of the conversations you could have is, if you could define your ideal customer, who would they be? And they may tell you it's women aged 34 to 49, have children, own a home, and have an household income of 50,000 or more, and are in this geography. If that's your ideal audience, which is if you were to homogenize all of your folks into that, how do you reach that audience? The great thing about digital is you can really target. And we have the ability to do that very well because we have a bigger company and we have a lot of unique data, cookies, so to speak, based on all our other media. So you take a combination of the ability to take your own data and mix it with other resourceful data sources. You can target that audience that I just described geographically, behaviorally, and you can do it not just on Mass Live, but you can do it in multiple websites. And that's what you're doing. You're trying to get those ads to pop up to that ideal audience, have them react, and then you have the most likelihood of success because you're delivering if you have the right messaging to the right audience.
So what would be like the difference between making an ad for digital versus making an ad for traditional media?
Yeah, pixels. Yeah, you're building a 300 by 200, your 720 by 100, whatever, based on the primary digital display units. Another huge difference is digitally, when you're running a digital impression campaign, a digital display impression campaign, unlike the newspaper, keep it simple call to action, simple graphics, very few details. The primary thing you're trying to get is have some sort of call to action with interest so that you then click on that ad. Once you click on that ad, then you go to a landing page or the website or the place on the website that gives me the additional information because I'm interested. And that's the way to build digital. In a newspaper, because it is static and depending on the size of the ad, you can get away with a little more content, a little more copy, far more than you can put in a digital display ad. And that's a common mistake where, a customer thinks that I'm going to put all this information in this digital ad. No one's going to click on. In fact, they're going to be annoyed by it. So keep it simple.
Thank you. I just have a couple more questions for you.
Ask away. I'm having fun. You having fun?
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
Good. You better be. We got to have fun.
So in my book, I Am a CEO, Realistic CEO, Tony, he talks about the LBW, the long, lonely, boring work. So can you tell us about the LBW in your career?
Yeah. You asked about sales. The other part about sales, if you think you're going to go into sales and work 40-hour weeks, you've got another thing coming. And you want to be successful, really successful. I tell even teams or people I've hired that you're going to work at least 50 hours and thinking that it can be more than that. And I don't mean sitting at a desk in an office. You can work while you're taking a shower and thinking about something creative for a customer. You can be watching television, your favorite show, streaming, whatever, and sitting there with a tablet just coming up with headline ideas or thoughts associated with that advertiser. Those nights where I had to really dig deep and be thinking about solutions for advertisers, overcoming significant objections, those are some of the more difficult things. I will say to you, the thing that has probably kept me up the most over the years I've been doing this are when I've had a significant issue with an advertiser, a customer that I care about. And it may be an issue that wasn't even caused by us, but as a result of extenuating circumstances, they are upset with us. I take that to heart. I've dreamt of those things, the solution. I've been talking to that customer in my sleep so I can resolve the issue. It's usually gets resolved very quickly the next day or whatever it is, and I overemphasize it, but I take it to heart. The other thing is when you have a difficult situation with an employee. That is difficult to manage that situation. You have an underperformer or someone that's been insubordinate, and you really need to tackle that and address it. That's the least fun part about leadership or management. When you have to have a confrontation and a very difficult conversations, but man, they're so important. They can't go undone. If you let things fester, they get worse. And then you allow underperformance to poison the culture of your staff and firing somebody. I believe that anyone that I have had to terminate their employment, sounds like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, terminate, fire, it's horrible. They knew it was coming because I'm communicating it. This is what you're doing. This is what I need you to do. This is where we need to improve. And I need to see evidence of it. And if over time you're not seeing it and they're not doing their part, it's nothing personal, but you need to find other employment. You don't fit here. This doesn't work. I wish you well, but you're no longer employed here. You hand them their last paycheck. Not a fun thing to do, but very necessary at times.
So, like, when it gets to that point, like, how do you know, like, it's time I gotta fire you or this is not working?
Performance. We're sales. If you're not generating numbers, you can be the nicest person, show up every day, participate. But if you have a sales goal and you continually don't come close to meeting that or achieving it or exceeding it, it's time to go. Or if you just don't, I've fired people that I hear that they're going out to sell and they're sleeping in a car on the side of the road. I've heard, I've had people that are going to the movies during the day while they're supposed to be selling. When you learn of those things, that escalates things very quickly and you can terminate quick. The harder one is the one I mentioned. Someone that has a great attitude, shows up, smiles, wants to be a good performer, just can't do the job. That's hard. You never want to see that happen to anyone. But if you're in a career like that and you're not performing, I'm not doing you any favors by stringing you along and you're not having success. Go find someone that's something you can be successful at. You could be an amazing waitress or a great restaurant and be pulling down $500 in cash and tips every weekend. Maybe you're better at that. You don't have to sell them anything. You're just taking care of them. So you have to find what you're good at and pursue and work hard and that uses your talents. And maybe sales isn't it, and that's okay.
I just have one more question for you. And it's, what's one fun fact about yourself?
Sheesh. I am a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I love doing things that probably are scary a little bit. And I'll give you some examples. I've jumped out of a perfectly good airplane in a tandem jump from 13,000 feet to raise money, by the way, at Orange Airport. Love that. I've paraglided several times, including in Switzerland and over the Black Beach in La Jolla, California. I'm just 2 weeks ago, my wife, knowing that I'm an adrenaline junkie, bought me the extreme experience. And I drove a Lamborghini Huracan at 115, 120 miles an hour on the Pocono Speedway, the small track. There's only a quarter-mile stretch there, so And I tell you, I had my foot to the mat for that car. I love that stuff. Love driving that car. And then currently, something that's really pushing my envelope is I'm trying to acquire my private pilot's license. So I'm up at Barnes at Flylugu, jumping into Piper Cherokee airplanes, and I've now have about 50 hours of flight time, ground school, and it's an adrenaline rush. I love that stuff. It's a good pump. What's not to like? So that's one.
I just want to thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The thank you is to you. I appreciate what you're doing, Michael. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Without patronizing you, I'm proud of what you've done. I see your magazine. I love your magazine.
Thank you.
Love the children's book. I will read that to my 4th grade class. And I'm grateful for the time you spent with me. This has been fun. And I wish you all the best. And if you need anything, you know where to find me.
Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate that.
You got it.
And I want to thank every single one of you for all the support that you have shown in my journey of becoming the realistic CEO. Ways that you can support even more is by going onto my website, realisticceo.com, and ordering your copy of the Realistic CEO book. Our goal is to be able to give away 500,000 copies of our book in the next 5 years. So with you ordering a book, we also match it. So that's one book toward the 500,000. If you want to even give away more, there's also a donate button where you can donate as much book as you want on the website. That will truly mean a lot to me and also the kids receiving the books as well. See you in the next episode. Peace.